The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Hinckley and Bosworth, everybody. Now, for the rest of this week, we've got something of a coal mining theme, and this is the village which has the most to talk about in that regard. It's a tiny little village which is just off the A447, and it's known as Nailston. Nailston, Nail's Farm. Today in Hinckley and Bosworth, we're in the first substantially sized village we've covered so far. This is Nailston, which is 3 miles northeast of Market Bosworth and sits on the district boundary with northwest Leicestershire. Nailston is a former Gopsall Estate village. As such, it has several buildings of special interest and unique characteristics which are particular to Gopsall Estate villages. It became a conservation village in 2015. In terms of landmarks within the main cluster, here we have a church, an old school and a current school to discuss, the latter of which is named Dovebank as opposed to Nailston. The village also has a former pub called the Bull's Head. That's all standard stuff, but Nailston also has interesting historical links. One of them is to the Jacobite Rising of 1745 when, after his retreat from Derby, Bonnie Prince Charlie visited the Knowles family, village locals who were his friends. A great elm tree was planted in the village to commemorate that event. Nailston has had links to coal mining since 1862. In that year, the first Nailston colliery mineshaft was sunk. It closed in 1991, lasting almost 130 years. Today, the colliery is remembered by way of a memorial in the village centre, and the site of the mine has since been redeveloped into a logistics centre and a country park. Between the dirty, industrious coal mining days to the present times, it's certainly changed its character now. Without a doubt, Nailston has seen some different and interesting times, but today it's a lovely little Leicestershire village. It's time to go for another walk. We start today's episode with a drive into Nailston village from the south using the A447. Now straight away there's an important landmark to see at the crossroads where you turn right to head into the main village cluster. In front of you here is a big house called Elmside Farm. It's reputedly named after a great elm tree which was planted here at the crossroads after Bonnie Prince Charlie visited Nailston in 1745. He'd come to see his friends, the Knowles family, before retreating north. The tree marked the most southerly point of the Prince's progress to London during the Jacobite Rising. The tree no longer stands. It was blown down by gales in 1962, but it has since been replaced by a chestnut tree further up Main Street by the church. We begin our walk around Nailston at its eastern end outside its one and only school. This is Dovebank, which has served Nailston since 1982. The thing is, it actually serves more than just this village. Dovebank Primary School was opened in order to accommodate the children not just from Nailston, but also those from the villages of Bagworth and Battram. This was due to the closure of the school in Bagworth in 1981 after mining subsidence meant that building a new school in that village would have been both impractical and dangerous. The amalgamation of Nailston, Bagworth and Battram schools was funded in part by the Nailston Coal Board as a result of the impact mining subsidence had on the old school buildings. Dovebank contains the old bells from the original schools in Battram, Bagworth and Nailston, which are incorporated into its current entrance. This was done in recognition of their shared history. Okay, so we've used the footpath that runs alongside the school, and it's kind of brought us into the middle of nowhere. As you can see, we're in a field here, but not for long, to be honest with you, because the footpath turns here at this stile and it takes us across back into the village over there. You can see the spire of the church next to those trees just there. That's kind of what we're heading for in a moment. Now, Nailston is a very interesting village. It's one of those that's an estate village. It's got some unique characteristics. It belongs to, or belonged, should I say, to the Gopsall Estate. So let's go and check it out and see what it's like, shall we? Nailston has been both an estate village and a mining village in its time. As an estate village, it belonged to Gopsall. The estate was centred on the massive Gopsall Hall, built in 1750 by Charles Jennens. It was at one time considered to be the grandest house in Leicestershire. Running the estate for a time were the Earls or Lords Howe, responsible for many of the properties and facilities around Nailston, including the Bull's Head pub. They also had a hand in the church too. Nailston still has several houses that display the characteristics of the Gopsall estate villages. Although it's seen limited changes since the estate was sold in 1927, the properties gradually passed into private ownership, with the current buildings providing fine evidence of historical and social development. Nailston became a mining village in 1862 when the first shaft at the local colliery was sunk. Barring a couple of brief closures, the pit lasted for almost 130 years before closing fully in 1991. Today, not much remains of the old pit site, but we will get a look at that later. There were several fatal accidents at Nailston. In a small park close to the church, you'll find this pit wheel, memorialising both the colliery and the men who worked at it. The church now. Dedicated to All Saints, this one dates from the 13th and 14th centuries. This large, light, spacious church has the same characteristics of other Leicestershire churches in having a north aisle which is nearly as large as the nave. Such examples include the ones at Broughton Astley and Thurleston. Nailston's church has a large 14th century tower and a fine 117-foot brooch spire that can be seen for many miles. There were pinnacles at the top of the tower at one time, but these were removed for safety reasons. Two can be seen at the base of the tower today. The chancel is probably the oldest part of the building, with its two blocked lancet windows dating from the 13th century. The medieval font now sits on a log, whilst a later Victorian one is behind it. The church was partly rebuilt and restored in 1852 and 53 by Ewan Christian. The rainwater heads, a common addition by him to many churches, bear the date of 1852. The main funds for the renovation were donated by Earl Howe, who contributed £1,250. The total cost was around £1,700. The organ dates from 1844 and was a gift from Lord Howe. The oak eagle lectern was carved out of a beam from St Mary's Church in Leicester, and it was presented to All Saints in 1885. This one also contains a badly worn tomb slab at the eastern end of the north aisle. The slab was originally on top of an altar tomb, but was rescued by a rector after being underneath a heating stove. It was for a Thomas Corbett who died in 1586. He served 4 royals as Sergeant of the Pantry under Henry VIII, Edward VI, Mary and Elizabeth I. He lived until he was 94 and had 21 children by his 2 wives. That's quite an achievement, and you can definitely tell that TV didn't exist back then. Okay, so everything you've seen so far has been in the eastern portion of Nailston. We're now heading west out towards the crossroads where this video actually began. So the next thing on our list is to see the old school, which is just a bit further up the road that I'm currently stood on. Before Dovebank School, Nailston had an older place for education. In fact, it had several. This building here is one of the schools that predated Dovebank. Built in 1828, this former national school was established and funded largely by Earl Howe. In its formative years, it catered for 26 male and 30 female pupils, whose parents also paid a small fee. Howe provided the school mistress's annual salary of £30. By 1847, there were 2 schools in Nailston according to records, but it seems they were counting this place twice. Boys and girls were taught separately in different rooms, and so, theoretically, there were 2 schools in one building. It was the custom to do that back then. Over the road we find the former Bull's Head pub. This was originally built in the 1830s as part of the Gopsall Estate. Well established and successful throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, this served the mining community well until long after the last lump of coal was lifted from Nailston Colliery. The pub was a significant part of the village's social life, serving as a meeting place and a local landmark. It closed for business in 2020, and now there are plans to build 6 new homes to the rear of the building. Okay, so we've reached the corner of the oval, and this is where we find a parish notice board. Now, Hinckley and Bosworth people, you haven't seen this yet. I was supposed to do this in both Osbaston and Cadeby, but I never actually got round to doing it because I was busy with other stuff. When I find one of these things, I leave a card on the board to let people know that I've actually been to the place. Here's my card for this one, and it's going on this board right now. A magnetised board, I like these because it means I don't have to use pins or blue tack. There we go. Haha. That's Nailston in the books anyway. So let's close that up, make sure nothing falls out. There we go. Next job is to head into the oval, which is this way, and it's all residential for a bit. From here it's a case of working our way back to Dovebank, and to do that we have to pass through several residential areas, including the oval, which is a bit newer than the houses that display all their historic Gopsall Estate roots. I'll see you back at the school very shortly. Okay, we're back to Dovebank Primary School where we started, and that is the walk around Nailston. But we are not quite done with this yet. Oh no. You see, we mentioned coal a few times on our walk around, and we've yet to see where it was all mined. Well, I'll show you where it was mined. If you go along this road, past the school, and up towards Barlston, you'll see the site of the colliery. Although these days, it's nothing to do with mining. It's all to do with a supermarket. North and east of the village is a small settlement called Battram, which can be split into two pieces either side of the district boundary. First of all, there's Battram village itself, which forms part of the parish of Ibstock. That's for another time. On the Hinckley and Bosworth side of the boundary is the former colliery, which once towered over both Battram and Nailston. Today, the site of the pit's headstocks has been taken over by supermarket giant Aldi, who have built a brand new warehouse in their place. Some people believe this to be a blot on the local landscape, but equally, this has provided some 750 brand new jobs in the area since it was constructed. Covering a total of 72 acres, this new national distribution centre includes 4,600 square metres of ancillary office accommodation, HGV bays, a vehicle maintenance unit, a mezzanine area, cycle shelters, sprinkler tanks, a single-storey gatehouse structure, and some 600 car parking spaces. According to a design statement submitted by its builders, Stoas Architects, the site will soon be the fulcrum of Aldi's logistics infrastructure. Let's learn a bit more about the colliery that predated it. Today, there's not much left of the pit, but look on any modern overhead map and you can easily tell where it was. Nailston Colliery was a working mining site between 1862 and 1991, although for the last 24 years of operation, it was more accurately a coal output point for Bagworth, Ellistown and South Leicester collieries. Nailston was founded in 1862, probably by J.J. Ellis, but that's not known for sure. What is known is that he owned the colliery in 1866, but sold out in 1875. Thereafter followed a very shaky period and the colliery closed in 1876, but was working again by 1883. By 1887, it was under the control of the Nailston Colliery Company. Nailston initially worked two coal seams. These were the upper main seam and the lower main or roaster seam. There were two shafts, topped with a tandem headgear that allowed one winding engine to serve both. This was replaced in 1898 by a new structure which rose to some 50 feet tall, and in turn a massive steel headgear would later replace that. Nailston Colliery was surrounded by an area of good quality clay. As such, it had a brickworks associated with it, which made fire bricks and earthenware drainage pipes primarily. Much of the brick-making machinery was made by Wootton Brothers of Colville. Very soon, the coal seams under Nailston became depleted, and so the colliery moved on to the Lount and Yard seams in 1950. By 1967, these too had become exhausted, and Nailston stopped producing coal of its own. However, it was to remain open for another 24 years. It was NCB policy in Leicestershire to sink drifts to bring coal to the surface and abandon shafts for this process. That was done here. Nailston became the output point for Bagworth Colliery at first, before later Ellistown and South Leicester became connected too. It therefore became a major centre for coal preparation and distribution, but when Bagworth closed in 1991, so too did Nailston. To get to the next one, we have to go north, and in doing so, we pass an old inn. It was called the Neville Arms and stood right next to the colliery in the shadow of the headstocks. Today, the inn is the Cinnamon Tree, an Indian restaurant and takeaway, but as you can probably tell, it's currently not in use. That's all for Nailston anyway. See you tomorrow for another coal-themed Leicestershire village. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. you've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.